Hello, haulers. I know I'm getting to you a little later than I had originally planned with this content, but I'm just here now. I'm here now. So here we go. I had a hauler, newer hauler, who asked me a very good question that I feel is good to put out there for all of you to know. When buying in bulk for an entire month, you have a lot of food. Ideally, you're gonna have a lot of food to put in the pantry, but especially the freezer if you want it to hold for a long period of time, like a month's time or more. We have a very deep freezer with our large refrigerator. So it's really nice because we have a huge drawer with an extra drawer inside to hold really big frozen boxes of things, and then another little mini drawer that holds additional smaller frozen items. But even at the beginning of the month, when I get a lot of frozen things, sometimes that freezer's not enough. So I know many haulers who have an additional deep freezer that they keep in their garage, home, or basement in some place or another, and they use that to keep other items, such as when they make large pans of freezer meals ahead of time, they have plenty of room in one of those individual deep freezers, which I think is a great idea. And originally I had a plan for that. We wanted to get a deep freezer, but with some changes in our home, it's just not ideal right now. So we just backed out of that idea for the time being. However, I know in the future we will be getting a deeper freezer because I do plan to be making some freezer meals that I can keep for emergency situations. And they're easy to just have prepped and ready, pop them in the oven and cook them real quick for the family. So anyways, back to topic. You have so many freezer items sometimes that it takes up too much room and you don't have enough for it all. Or you buy something hoping that it's gonna last the whole month, knowing that you're not gonna use that much stuff very quickly before it may go bad. What are some good items that you could freeze in the freezer? So, long explanation short, basically the question was, what are some good items to freeze? How do you know what to freeze? And how do you know which is good to keep out of the freezer when you first get home with your large grocery haul? And that's a really good question. Before I started these grocery hauls, I had to do a lot of research for myself because I realized there's so many items that you can freeze ahead of time that you probably had no idea that you could freeze. For example, obviously, you're going to freeze everything that you got in the freezer section at the store. I buy the 10-pound bag of frozen chicken. That all goes in the freezer. I buy frozen Kodiak waffles. I take them out of the box because the box takes up so much room in the freezer, but I put those in the freezer. I buy my big bags of frozen berries and fruit for my smoothies, and that goes in the freezer. Frozen vegetables and chicken nuggets and so on and so on. But little did you know that you can freeze things. Some of the things that I didn't know you could freeze are loaves of bread. So when I go to Kroger, sometimes they have a really good sale on bread. Costco always has pretty good deals on bread as well, but usually if I go to Kroger and they're having like 5 loaves for $4, I'm gonna stock up on that and I'm gonna go ahead and put 4 of those loaves in the freezer, and I'm gonna keep 1 out in the pantry. When we are about 3/4 of the way done with that loaf of bread, and or if I say I pack the kids' lunches in the morning and I use the last bit of bread, while we're gone for the day, I can set another loaf out from the freezer and it'll thaw within the day, and we'll use that again for the next couple days until it's gone. And you'd be surprised how fast and how well bread thaws, how long it'll last in a freezer. We buy multiple types of bread. I like that Dave's Killer Bread. My husband loves Italian bread, and my kids just, they get whatever's on sale for their sandwiches. So it's so nice to be able to freeze only what you're not using and keep out only what you are using. Another great thing about the ability to freeze bread is you can make for kids' lunches, say you have kids and you're buying in bulk for your bigger family like us, you can actually make sandwiches in advance, like peanut butter and jelly, like turkey sandwiches with cheese, and you can put them in the freezer. If you guys really think about it, we spend a lot of money on Uncrustables, the Smucker's Uncrustables. You get these small little sandwiches, they're frozen, you throw them in their lunches frozen, and by the time they get them at lunchtime, they're thawed, but still a little cold because the jelly is really good cold. So think about that when you're making sandwiches. You can actually make your own Uncrustables, but there is a secret to that. If you moms out there or dads out there who have made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for your kids, my daughter's biggest complaint used to be that by the time she got to lunch, half the bread was soggy from the jelly. Well, I learned a little tip or trick to that, and that tip or trick is that you actually put peanut butter on each piece of bread so that it is a layer on each bread, and then put the jelly on, and that peanut butter is like a coating that protects the jelly from getting the bread soggy. You can then put them in individual Ziploc baggies or big gallon baggies and put them in the freezer. And just like Uncrustables, you take them out in the morning, frozen, put them in their lunch, and by the time lunchtime comes at school, they have cold but not frozen Uncrustables or Crustables, because my kids like the crust. Basically, some really cold peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And like I said, you can do the same thing with turkey and cheese, ham and cheese, chicken and cheese, all kinds of different sandwiches. So that's what's really great about bread that you can freeze. Another item that I didn't know that you could freeze that you can is spinach. When I got to Costco, they had a 4-pound bag of spinach for like $3, or maybe it's 3 pounds for $4. But either way, it was so much spinach. And spinach can go bad really quickly if you don't use it. I learned that very quickly on my first haul. But then I also learned that you could freeze it. The only problem I've found with spinach is that when it does thaw, it's kind of soggy, like you've cooked it. Like cooked spinach. So what I've learned I have to do with spinach is just use it in my smoothies. So I keep it frozen in the freezer, and then when I take it out for my smoothies with my frozen fruit, like berries, mangoes, pineapples, strawberries, I put the spinach in frozen as well, and it just adds more coldness to the smoothie. So spinach is a really good one that you can keep in the freezer also. Some other great items, give me a moment to look here. When you go to Costco or Sam's Club or buying in bulk when it comes to cheese, I know at Costco they give you 2 huge bags of cheese for around $10 or $11, and there's no way we're going to go through that much shredded cheese before it goes bad. So luckily you can freeze cheese. So we take 1 bag out of the 2 bags and put 1 in the refrigerator that we're going to use for large freezer pan meals, Mexican nights, quesadillas, anything. We use so much cheese for lots of things. And then the other bag goes in the freezer. When we're really low or completely out of the first bag, we can take the second bag out of the freezer, put it in the fridge, and it thaws out within a day's time, and then you have more cheese to use. So cheese is another really good one that you can freeze. Let me get to my list here so I don't forget anything. Another great thing is obviously vegetables. You can buy vegetables frozen in a bag at the store, so of course you can freeze them as well in the freezer. Potatoes, you can cook baked potatoes ahead of time and actually put them in the freezer, and then they're really easy to just pop in the oven and cook in tin foil. And that's another really, really good one. You could even have the cheese already on them when you cook them or when you prep them and put them in the freezer. And then when you cook them, the cheese will melt, and it's just so good, so good. Another great thing, obviously I've talked about it multiple times already, but it is berries or fruit. You can freeze all kinds of fruit. You can buy them fresh, fresh thawed berries and fruits, and then put them in the freezer, or you can buy the big bulk bags of frozen fruit already and keep that in the fridge. And it's really good to eat frozen as a treat most of the time, like frozen blueberries and frozen raspberries and things like that. But then they're also nice to keep frozen to throw in a smoothie, which is what I do almost every single morning. And then the last thing that I've been told that you can freeze And I've tried it before, and some people are a little grossed out by it, but you can actually freeze milk. The only thing that I've noticed with milk is when it thaws out, it thaws more of a yellow color. And from what I understand, that's something to do with scientific oxidation, something like that. But I don't think it's harmful for the milk for you to ingest or eat or drink. But it's also an option too, because they do have really good sales with milk, and people will buy that in bulk, freeze it, and then use it as needed. One of the last things that I touch on at every haul, because we buy these at every haul every single month because they're so good, is the Holy Guacamole cups. It says it right on the package that you can freeze some and then refrigerate the rest. And the great thing about those Holy Guacamoles is once you get them out of the freezer, they thaw perfectly. They do not brown unless you open them and leave them out on the counter in, you know, room temperature. In the room temperature, then they'll brown. But when you take them out of the freezer and thaw them, they thaw perfectly. They taste just as good. It's awesome because guacamole can be iffy in a lot of cases. So that's another really great one if you guys love having guacamole or love packing little snacks for the day. It's really nice to just grab one out of the freezer, let it thaw, and then eat it later on. So that's another great option. I imagine that I am actually going to come up with more options for freezing as time goes on, but I just wanted to share a few with you guys now while I had them fresh on my mind. And if there are certain things that you question about freezing, Google it. I mean, Google's our best friend in this time of age. I Google literally everything. So if I have a question about freezing stuff, that's what I do. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Go ahead and Google your questions, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of great answers for different things. But basically, that's how I've learned, is just research via Google most of the time, or other haul vloggers. So I hope this is helpful. If it was helpful and you feel like you could benefit from additional videos, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment for me with any of your questions or any other content that you guys would like to see, and I would be more than happy to share it with you. I'm sorry I'm so out of breath. I don't know why I'm out of breath. I'm actually kind of sweating a little bit. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and add my Instagram page for all of you guys who might want some additional tips or tricks for grocery hauls and or any other kind of advice and tips and tricks in just life of a busy mom. I will go ahead and add that. I've actually changed my Instagram from my main just profile for myself as an individual to a more haul related Instagram page. And I just wanted to do that for people who were truly just interested in the grocery hauls and the other content that goes along with it. So go ahead and add me on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube page, leave a comment, DM me with any questions that you have on Instagram, and I will talk to you guys again soon.